Hi, everybody. This is Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food with Keto Under 20. And I'm just watching Mike from CarnOMAD, formerly KetoMad, talk about sugar and being a dumb addiction and everything else, and the bargaining and the whole thing. And so this is just a little bit of a tag on to what he said. And so when you're watching this video, it'll be Wednesday morning, and he posted this either Tuesday or late Monday night. But it was great. It is great. And the bargaining, I started writing a comment on his page on his video, and then I realized, no, this is worthy of like a whole video because of the crazy making. And sugar, when they talk about it being a drug and spiking your blood sugar and maybe getting you to pre-diabetic and getting you to gain weight, and then you can have heart conditions because it's sugar that causes heart conditions, not saturated fat. I know. Who knew? And so I find it also fascinating because I feel like he's like ripped off the can on my psyche because of all the bargaining that I did. And, it was like one bad decision is like that warm, round thing with things in it that got melty if you put it in the microwave for 5 seconds. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm very familiar with these sort of things. And the deal was one. And then the deal became two. And it's like I barely finished licking the brown stuff off my fingers when I was like nuking the next one for just a few seconds, just to make it nice and warm and fall aparty. And I loved it when people use brown sugar, because brown sugar and butter were like it was my elixir. It was my heroin. I didn't need to mainline it. It was mainline just by just by the visual. And so I would make all of these concessions, just like Mike was talking about. And of course, it's the calories in, calories out. And I still keep track of my calories just as the same way that I weigh myself. It's just a barometer, a guide, a whatever. It's not like, I'm trying to stay under a certain one or starve myself or, shoot for the moon and do all that kind of stuff. Since I've been keto, I don't eat sugar or grains. And that's just the way that it is. I've probably had more calories in than out with things like the prime rib that we had at Christmas, or the prime rib that we had at Thanksgiving, or the prime rib that I could have tonight if I could find one. I love my prime rib. But I would make these promises with myself, and a bag of like homemade or from somebody else or bakery shop type of thing like that you could buy 6 of or something like that, it would be deadly to me, because if I didn't finish them all at the same day, then it would be there for the next day. And part of my reasoning as Mike was going through his things is no binging 2 days in a row. And then I'm okay. So if I only had, 3 of those 6 today, then there'd be 3 left. And I was never quite at the point where I could destroy them. I might put them in the freezer for another time, but I was really getting a rain check on another binge because they're in the fridge or the freezer, right? So I began to offset that and just say, let's just have the whole bag today. So it would be a cookie funeral. And I was very good at having funerals. Like, I think probably those round things and then those tubs of the stuff in the freezer. Those two were more funeral inducing items in my binging or my standard American diet days. I didn't really, the other stuff, I don't know, I wouldn't have it in the home. So I wasn't so it wasn't really that bad. But these things, these two items, I thought I could control. Oh, I just felt a wet pink nose on my leg. Um, so I felt I could control them. And because things are in the freezer, my addict is like um, doing an Irish jig, because it's like they're there and you can have them and they will stay fresh until you have them, but they are there. And so that would play in my head. And the speaker system in my fridge and my freezer is pretty spectacular. It makes Bose look like, something you'd get at Walmart. Nothing fancy about it at all. My speaker system from Ms. Slick about, you can have them. You can just have them. You just have to nuke them 10 seconds instead of 5. And I would be off to the races. So I'd have the food funeral for that one item or those two items. And I would think, I'm never going to have these things again. And really, at that point, my sugar-induced brain would say to me, I'm never going to have those things again. I mean, it would be like, and it's so ludicrous as I say it to you now, being in recovery from sugar and grains, and maybe you are too. And so, I'd finish up the stuff, and I wouldn't realize, of course, at that point, that there was going to be sugar hangover. Another consequence is it's still in your brain, it's still in your system, so you're still going to crave it for a while. So the withdrawal was brutal because for me, withdrawing from sugar items was like withdrawing from heroin. You couldn't give me enough Suboxone, methadone, all of those other things that they take. I remember because I worked at the methadone clinic. All those things that you could take to ease the pain of the withdrawal of the heroin. Well, with sugar, it's not like I could have, sugar-free something, and it would fill that hole and help me wean off the sugar. Because I think those things still lit up my brain, okay? The artificially sweetened things that, like Weight Watchers, or WW as they say now, came out with in boxes for my freezer, which when I gave up sugar, the freezer purge was pretty sad. Pretty darn sad. So I made myself a lot of false promises that I couldn't keep. And I'm sure that, but to me, the thing that was coming to me out of Mike's video was my resolve to not be resolved, because tomorrow I'm going to be resolved. And it was so dangerous, and it was so persnickety, and it was always persistent, because I'm just going to get it out. My last foods that I binged on before I entered into Weight Watchers, then low carb, high fat, then keto under 20, were the round things with frosting on them, okay? And I would buy 3 a week that only I would eat. And it would be like, we'd be getting towards, the D-Day, diet day, going without them day, thinking, okay, all right, it's going to be fine. And I would just level them. I would just take them right down to that foil little thing at the bottom that they came sitting on. And I would think that the next day it would be fine. It's like it never happened. It's like there were no consequences. It was like there was no hangover. It was like there was no, sugar withdrawal. And it was crazy. And the only way to get rid of it, and of course I OD'd on so much because it was a food sugar funeral, that I had so much in my body that probably never even got through, even though they say that the sugar gets processed right away, especially white table sugar. And so when Mike was talking about the dumb decisions we make on sugar and about sugar, he is so correct. He's so correct. because once it's in my system, any sanity, any reasonableness, any logic goes out. It just goes out. And I become the bursting sugar addict that is only in remission. You know, every day on my keto food plan with my carbs under 20, and today they're under 5 total, any day that I do my keto successfully, the sugar addict is still right there, but nothing is tickling her. Nothing is saying, you can have a little bit of this. Go ahead. You know, I don't think I'd even trust myself with berries at this point. They aren't in season now, so I wouldn't be eating them anyway. But that sugar draw, there is, for me, there is nothing else like it in the world. And then the few days after, and when people indulged over Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's and all of that, and they would come back and they'd say, you know, now I've got to lose the 5 pounds. It's really hard, this and that. But a lot of them probably had the grains, the seed oils, which are highly addictive as well, and sugars in what they were having, allowing as, you know, the non-keto items, because, you know, January 3rd, I'm going to be good forever again, another food funeral. And so it might even be hard for them to know, are they a sugar addict, a seed oil addict, or a carb, you know, like a white flour addict, or even a starchy, you know, some sort of casserole thing that, you know, Aunt Millie made for 35 years, and then you took it over, and then you went keto, and the little sourpusses and pouts because you didn't do it with those marshmallows on top, you know, this year. Just because you're on a diet doesn't mean that we're on a diet, right? And so, you know, it's hard to detect, and it comes back to that thing that Mike talks about at times, and so do I. If you give up everything at once, or you take on all of those things, the sugar, the grains, the seed oils, all at once, how are you going to know what is the most addictive, light up your brain, hard to withdraw from? You might not know. You might not give a flying, okay? But for people like me, I know that the sugar, it would lie in wait. It's like it's in those weeds, those beautiful green in the wind weeds, and the sugar is there, and it's just waiting to pounce on me, almost inject itself into me, and see me go, you know, stark raving insane with my addiction for sugar. Fortunately, I think the keto pizza has saved me with the grains, because it is, you know, I've gotten so used to having it on Saturday, and it really is, it's like preventative binging for carbs, for grains. But the sugar, I just have to leave out. I just have to keep it at bay. And I do put, disclosure, I do put Xyla, an alternative sugar, into my coffee, but it doesn't trigger anything. It's just the way that I drink my coffee, like my coffee, have my coffee. And it just kind of stays right there in my no matter what club mug. And so I'm not seeking sweet after I have that. It's like contained, it is what works, and it's 2 to 3 times a day. But the true drug, that white table sugar, found in all of the items, and at the end, that layered thing that I would have. Well, what do you think's in the frosting? Seed oils, the Crisco, and all of those sort of things, and the sugar. And then you add the white flour for the cake. I mean, I was just a goner at the end. It was all 3. And that's what, you know, those 3 round things, that's what I was addicted to at the end of my standard American diet. Walk, run, shame, guilt, remorse, fill her up, all of those sort of things. And so, you know, that at the end, those three round things seemed to be it because they had all three things in it: the seed oil, the sugar, and then the white flour. And so I'm sure that withdrawing from that when I did, it was like 5 or 6 years ago now, it might have been brutal. Um, if that happened to me and I was entering into keto, I would definitely enter into keto being carnivish. I would have 80% protein in my diet. I would I would kill those cravings, those triggers, the withdrawal, all of it with beef. I know today because I know my body and how all of that works for me. So I just wanted to like tag on to Mike's CarnOMAD because sugar addiction is real. It's not funny. It's not cute. It's not something silly and little. It is big time, baby. And the decisions I make under the influence of sugar were probably very similar to the ones I made under the influence of alcohol, which is like a sugar too. What do you know? So anyway, thanks, Mike, for your excellent video. And this is my follow-up, and we will just carry on, won't we? Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's hump day.